Hey, I'm Kristi Mitchell, and welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing, the podcast where we talk about what really happens when marketing doesn't go according to plan. Every week, I sit down with business owners and leaders to unpack the missteps, the experiments that didn't land, and the decisions they'd probably rethink if given a do-over. But more importantly, we talk about what they learned on the other side and what you can take with you as you build your own business. Success rarely comes from getting it right the first time. It comes from taking action, making mistakes, adjusting, and showing up again and again. If you've ever wondered whether you're the only one figuring this out as you go, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody. I am so excited for my chat today with Lindsey. Lindsey is the vice president at Gravity Group, a brand and marketing agency in Virginia, where she helps businesses turn messy marketing into clear strategic plans that actually work. This is why Lindsey and I already get along so well. So much alignment there. She partners closely with CEOs and marketing teams across industries, including healthcare, manufacturing, and finance, and is especially passionate about audience-first human marketing built for the long game. With that, I will welcome Lindsey to the show.
Hey, Kristi, how are you?
I am doing well, thank you. And I am so excited for our conversation today. We were chatting before we came on air, thinking about like how we actually met. So it was either LinkedIn and or Toby Miles' podcast, Her Origin Story. We'll give Toby a shout out here. Lindsey and I were talking about how we've been in each other's worlds, I think on LinkedIn for a bit now. And it feels like we already know each other, even though we've never actually hopped on a call until now.
I know. And what were we waiting for? I mean, really.
Right. We have a shared passion for strategy and marketing, which I'm always happy to nerd out about. And we were talking, you're a big dog person too. So
absolutely,
that in common. I'm sure we're going to find throughout this conversation, we have a lot more in common. So I'm excited for that.
I'm sure. Me too.
So Lindsey, when we talked about having you on the show, I think you and I were both commenting on a LinkedIn post. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I have to ask her to come on so we can talk more about this. So the topic that we kind of settled on, which I'm sure with your experience, we could talk about a number of different things in terms of marketing mistakes that you see people making. But for our conversation today, we were going to focus on ads and ad placement and kind of a common mistake that you see businesses making. So I will kick it over to you. Kind of where do you want to start with this conversation today?
Yeah. So gosh, I think I see a couple of really commonly made mistakes, or I hate to use the word mistake. Maybe misperception is a better term or a friendlier term. But I see a lot of brands that either want to try to fit everything into a message, and it ultimately is from their point of view, right? So they're wanting to promote a product or service that they offer, and so they think they need to say every single thing about that product and service. But from their point of view, they're seeing all the work that their teams do kind of on the back end to build it. So it's a lot of feature language, and it can, depending on the business or the product, it can skew really technical versus talking about why people should even care. Like, what problem are you solving for your audience, and how can you distill that message down into maybe a main point that they can remember and take away? And then when they're interested, then they can go online to learn more, or go to a retail store or something like that. So that's kind of one avenue of mistake that I see a lot. The other is with placement. So thinking that you need to try to be everywhere and be everything to everyone, because heaven forbid you alienate one person who maybe would buy your product. And I hate when I see that or when I run into it, because companies have limited marketing budgets and it gets spread too thin, and then they're not going to have, the frequency or be in the right places to actually reach their target audience when they try to just do everything. So those are kind of a couple of main types of mistakes that I see often.
Yes. And I like to refer to them too as missteps. It might not be a mistake.
Yes, love that. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Mistake feels a little harsh. It's a
yes, I agree.
Even though I love when I have business owners on the show who are like, we have to make mistakes in our business and in our marketing, because that's how we learn. That's kind of the framework or the viewpoint, I'll say, that I take on in terms of marketing mistakes.
Yeah, no,
So
I love that.
I'm curious, Lindsey, so I should have given you like full disclosure. I don't know how many episodes of the show you've caught. Sometimes we have not so great things to say about marketing agencies, just with guests that come on the show in terms of their experiences and what did not go well. So I'm sure you know there's lots of agencies out there that take a lot of money from their clients, don't deliver on what they want. So I would love to kind of dig in with you on because I think ads is the big piece. A lot of times business owners feel like, okay, I go to an agency and they run ads for me and then we didn't really get what we wanted. So I'm curious from your standpoint, especially since strategy was in your bio, what are kind of those, do you guys have a process for like making sure that there's kind of a strategic foundation before we go and start doing paid ads?
Yeah, so I want to say we're a little bit different than maybe a typical agency, and we honestly struggle with even calling ourselves an agency because of all of the negative connotations around that. I feel like we're structured kind of uniquely. Steve Gilman, who started Gravity Group, is more of a brand strategist. I'm more on the marketing side, and we like to look at those as guardrails whenever we take on work. So everything we do has both a brand and a marketing focus. Because we've seen some companies come in and they're very passionate about their brand, but then they're not doing marketing effectively to help support it and drive brand growth. On the flip side, we've seen people come in and just do things that will destroy their brand to try to make another dollar through marketing or advertising. So I think that's one thing that's a little bit different about us. Also, our clients, most of our clients we've had for years and years and years. So unlike typical agencies where their goal is to make as much money as they can from a client because they know within a year or two they're going to be gone and they'll be on to the next one, we actually want to kind of work alongside companies, in some cases as their marketing partner. A lot of the companies we work with don't have any internal marketing teams. And in other cases, working alongside them to maybe fill in some skill gaps or things like that. So we like to say we live the brand with our clients. We care so passionately about who they are and what they do. And we work with companies that we really believe in them and in their mission. So it makes it really easy. But anytime that we start a new engagement with a client, or if we're planning a marketing campaign with an existing one, we make sure that we really understand, what are the business goals for this? What are we trying to accomplish? Who's our audience for it? So that we're sure we're speaking to the right people. And we dig into data whenever we can. So it's not just, well, gosh, when we started the company 10 years ago, this is kind of what we were doing. It's let's look at your sales data. Like, who's actually buying your product? What feedback are you getting from them? How can we make sure that we're designing, any messaging to really speak to that group? And that we're placing messages appropriately then. So we try to look at all of those things anytime that we're starting a campaign, and really make sure that in each case, no matter what we're doing, we're going back to the why, and we're going back to the who is this for and why should they care?
Yes, I absolutely love that. I mean, those are all of the pieces that I touch on when I work with clients in terms of marketing strategy, right? It's like, let's get super clear on who is that intended audience. And going back to what you said before, we can't be all things to all people. And so really getting clear on who is that intended audience that we really want to reach, who is likely to buy from us, and what are the challenges, the pain points, the problems that they're having that what we're selling can solve, and how do we kind of bridge that gap with the messaging. So yeah, I knew we'd have a ton of alignment in this area.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the things that is maybe hard for leadership to understand, or to really let it soak in sometimes, is that in most cases, your brand is not going to be the hero of the message. You're there to kind of be the sage or to guide people along, but your audience is the hero, and you need to help them be the hero, and show kind of how you can support them and make them such. And that your marketing isn't something that necessarily should resonate with everyone in the C-suite. They're not always the audience. They might care about it a whole lot. It's their company, but it's not necessarily designed for them. And I think that can be something that, as creatives, when we're reviewing messaging or ads with the leadership team, to remind them in a really friendly way that this is who we're trying to speak to and this is what they care about.
Yes. I kind of glossed over like before when you were talking about the marketing and the branding and how both pieces are really central to the way that you guys approach things at Gravity Group. I absolutely love that because it's almost like this like systems of checks and balances because you can very
Yes.
easily get overly focused on brand or the
Mhm.
marketing execution and then like you were saying like you run into all these issues. So I love that you guys bring both of those together. I do think that's very unique at least from what I see out there with
Mhm.
agencies.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that you have those conversations with your clients about who is really the intended audience, right? There might be a lot of people who are interested in this, but who is it
Yep.
really that we're trying to connect with? And going
Mhm.
back to, how we kind of started this conversation, those common missteps, we'll call them, that you see with
Mhm.
clients trying to be all things to all people with their message and spread themselves too
Mhm.
thin. Why do you think it is that businesses do that?
I think there's a fear, especially in businesses that, maybe started out as a really small business and they've been working hard to grow over time. I think a lot of times you have to kind of cobble things together, and you need to try to get every sale that you can get. And I think there's a little bit of a fear. It's almost like FOMO of missing out, potentially on some revenue. Well, gosh, if I don't advertise in the phone book and the yellow pages of all places, I might miss someone who still uses that and might give me a call. And I don't want that
Yep.
person to not know about me or be able to reach me. Is that really the
Mm-hmm.
best place? Absolutely not. And in spending that budget there, you might miss out on reaching 10 people through another channel that, you could have put money in. But I think people were, just afraid of missing out on that opportunity or missing out on the chance to get in front of someone who maybe would buy their product, even if that person, may buy the product, but may not become, brand loyal or may not become a repeat customer. And I think that's something that people don't always think about. It's that more immediate sale versus who am I going to reach that's going to be a long-term brand ambassador for me.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's such a great point. And yes, it's so I love the point that you make because my mind was going to some other things as well, but I love that point about we kind of cobbled things together, right? I think
Mhm.
most business owners can resonate with that, especially in the early days. And it can be I think you can very easily find yourself in this, well, we've just always done it. We've always paid to be in this
Mhm.
place or to promote this way or to be. And so when you get to the point of this, I call it like an inflection point, right? Whether they're looking to hire someone like you guys or someone like me as a consultant, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
we know we need to address this. We know we need to like figure this all out and being open to these ideas that maybe we don't have to keep everything that we've been doing all along. We can be more strategic and thoughtful with our budget and our time and our energy and focus maybe on some newer tactics or like you said before, I'm a huge proponent of the data. What is the data telling us? Where do we get the best results? So maybe we can stop doing these things that haven't been performing and spend more time, energy, budget on the things that are.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we love. A lot of times, whenever we start working with a new client, we come in and we do a brand and marketing assessment or audit, where we really get to talk to their people. We look at the data, we look at their products, their packaging, kind of all of the things, and say, like, okay, this is what served you to get to this point. That's great. Let's celebrate that. And
Mm-hmm.
here's what we should take with us going forward from that. And here's what maybe we leave in the past, and kind of create
Yes.
that blueprint or that roadmap for moving forward. And we do that for new clients. And we also have existing clients that, we've been working with for a few years. And they're like, you know what, we're at a point in our life cycle where we think we need that thing. Well, let's
Mm-hmm.
do some sort of assessment or audit. And it's so helpful because I think even, especially if you've been with the company for a long time, you get to a point where you're like, yeah, we've always been doing this. Our customers have kind of always seen this, but those new customers coming in haven't. And they might be scratching their
Mm-hmm.
head and be like, the packaging doesn't match what I see on your social or on your website. And what's going on with
Yeah.
that? So I think it can always be nice just kind of take that pause or that time to kind of go back and look at, let's evaluate, what should we be doing going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's like so many directions we could take this conversation. I have so many thoughts swirling in my head. That's another thing I will say that we have in common for sure is that analysis, assessment, audit, whatever you want to call it, of like, okay, let's just kind of take stock of everything. And especially for those businesses, like you said, who might just have been doing things the same way or having the same packaging or the same messaging, on their website about this, maybe it's a service, right? We can very easily just kind of, oh, this is just the way we've always done it. So it's really kind of getting to that point where you're like, okay, we want to do better. And then what does that look like? How do we bring in the right expert to help us figure out what that looks like going forward? And maybe it does mean repackaging or remessaging, rebranding, or just kind of retooling which spaces you're showing up in, as you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was something else you said. I'm trying to remember what it was. Really speaking to those repeat clients and getting more granular and detailed and specific in that. I want to expand on that conversation for, thinking of the business owners listening to the show and maybe helping them kind of identify, is this something that they've been doing, trying to reach too many people? And what does that look like to get more specific and focused?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting is a lot of companies that we talk with have a clear, maybe nurture sequence or messaging sequence to try to move someone from awareness to purchase. And then it stops. And there's nothing happening after someone actually buys. Those people have already made a decision to purchase your product. Now's the chance to celebrate that, make them excited about their purchase, reinforce their decision. So many people buy emotionally and then defend that decision logically. So that's the point, to highlight some features of your product, send content or share content about how to use it, what makes it different, celebrate their purchase. If it's a consumable good, are you sending an email or staying in touch with them? So at about the point when maybe they are getting close to being out of it, are you reminding them to purchase again? Like, what are you doing to nurture that audience so that they're not just a one-time purchaser, but they really are becoming an ambassador for your brand and someone who's loyal and excited about buying your product going forward?
Yes, I absolutely love that. And on the show, a lot of times we're talking about the service-based businesses. And I think about what you're saying and how from, awareness to purchase, right? For products, depending on the product, a lot of times that's a much quicker cycle than right on the service-based side. We talk about like, okay, awareness to conversion, like there's a lot that's got to happen in that middle piece. So I love that you bring in, that's usually where I see the big gap, is people think like, oh, they heard about us and then they're going to buy. And it's like, well, when you're selling like a big ticket, like consulting package or something, or some sort of service, like it doesn't happen that way. So we really need to address all those stages that happen in the middle. I love that you're bringing in this aspect of after the purchase, what are we doing to, help kind of stave off any of that like buyer's remorse that could happen, especially if it's a big ticket thing, or like you said, kind of like building that loyalty and making sure that they're utilizing what they purchased to its fullest so they see the benefit and they can become a brand ambassador and tell all their friends and colleagues about, this great thing that they bought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, the biggest hurdle is to get someone to know about your brand and then make that initial decision to purchase. So not stopping at that point, but continuing. I mean, it's going to take less budget and less effort, honestly, to keep talking to the people who you've already have as a customer or a client. So making sure that you're nurturing them and providing them with really good support and extra things to help move them along. I work with a lot of clients in financial services, and I hear a lot of them use the term, what's the next best product? So they know if someone gets, say, an auto loan in a household, they can look at their data and say, oh gosh, well, typically then within 18 months, that household has another auto loan because the spouse then wants a vehicle. So we know at what point to start talking about that. Or we know if someone gets a mortgage with us within so long, home equity is going to be the next best product. So, kind of for whatever your business or service is, what's that next best thing that's going to help your customer, your client, to continue along their journey so that you're kind of like their helpful sidekick and that person that's right there that is top of mind for them because you're really helpful and really supportive and helping them accomplish their goals.
I love that. That is so simple and so smart, for sure. Yeah. So this is a great conversation. I want to make sure that I kind of circle back to the beginning of our conversation when we were talking about ads, and we kind of already addressed, trying to talk to too many people and getting more focused on that. The other side of it, what you said, was kind of spreading that ad budget too thin and trying to
Mhm.
show up in too many places. So tell us more
Mhm.
about what you see in that space and how business owners should shift their thinking on it.
Yeah, I would say one of the things I would recommend is if you have room in your budget at all to talk with someone who can help with the media buy for you so that you're not coordinating with individual media reps, I highly recommend it. Or someone with just experience looking at all of the options and helping to guide you a little bit. Because one of the things that I've seen throughout my career is every media rep, most media reps want to help. And so they truly do want to help the businesses that they work with, the advertisers they work with, because if they do, then you'll be a repeat advertiser. But they also have a lot of placement options, within whatever type of media it is that they're selling. And they will try to sell you everything because everything is a great idea and you should buy it all. And at the end of the day, it's just not always true, especially when you can step back and take that 30-foot view and kind of look at, okay, well, we could be doing all of these things. How do they all actually work together? How do they align with our audience and where should we be? So, for example, I was talking with a client recently and the service they're promoting skews older. And initially in the conversation, they wanted to do an all digital budget. I love digital. That's great. I think it should be a part of their budget. But I actually recommended in this case, let's pull back in some of the digital areas and allocate some budget to traditional media because their audience is still watching the local news or reading the newspaper in their community and things like that. So just looking at what it is you're marketing, who your audience is, and making sure that you're in the right places. I have other clients who, say these reps reached out to me and it's 10 different media outlets. If you look at the individual pricing for all of them and what they're getting like on their own, sure, it's not a bad package. But to try to take all of those, it's not a good use of budget. There's areas where we could kind of cut and streamline. So just making sure that you're not just trying to saturate the market because not everyone in the market is your ideal audience, and you're putting the money where it's going to make the best fit. And even if that means you had a $5,000 placement budget and you're only spending $3,500, that's awesome. Save that extra $1,500 for other things that will come up later in the year. Don't feel like I budgeted this. I can go ahead and spend it. If it's not the right fit, it's not the right decision.
Yes. I feel so often a repeated message on this show is more isn't always better, quality over quantity. And I think it's so easy, to your point, Lindsey. I just heard this from someone who attended a workshop that I gave. Like, oh, well, I keep getting these emails from these agencies who tell me XYZ and that I need to do this. And so what do you, they came to my workshop, so they obviously trust me to a degree and they're asking me for my advice. But I think it's so tempting, especially in that situation, right? This example that you're giving where it's like, oh, you could be in more places and, be on more channels and get more impressions and get in front of more eyeballs. And so a normal business owner would probably think, oh yeah, why wouldn't I want to do that? How do you kind of have that conversation with clients that like more isn't always better? How do you kind of frame it in a way that seems to resonate?
Yeah. So this might be silly, but one of the things I like to think about or talk with clients about is if you see a message, say you're on social media and you're scrolling and you see an ad and it's something unrelated or something you don't care about and you scroll past, but you see that ad every time you're on your phone, how annoying does that start to feel? It gets to feel pretty annoying, right? You're like, oh gosh, it's that stupid ad again. And you might, hide it or whatever. It's the same thing. If you're reaching people who aren't your audience, you're probably going to annoy them, but at the very least, like you're going to be wasting your money because they have no interest or intent to purchase. So why continue trying to get in front of that audience when there could be another opportunity that could come up in a few months? It would be a really good fit, but gosh, you already spent your budget to reach Kristi, who doesn't care about your product. So that's kind of an example that I give to people.
I love that. It's so smart because they can relate to it. Everyone can, anyone with, a smart device or a social media account can relate to that exact thing that you just said. So why not be smarter with the budget, pick the specific channels that make the most sense for that specific ideal audience you're trying to connect with. And like you said, save the budget. I think, I'd be curious what you say about this, but I feel like I see time and time again, especially when we're talking about paid ads, business owners just think, I'm going to throw money at ads and it's going to solve all my problems. Like that's, I don't know what it is about ads and budget, but I feel
Mhm.
like there's this idea that like, yeah, we're just going to spend it on ads and then we're going to get all these results that we're looking for.
Yeah,
So I love
no,
that you're saying like, yeah, pull back on it and spend it on some other things.
yes, I hear that too. And I think it's because a lot of people think of marketing as a faucet. Whenever we need some revenue, we just turn on the marketing faucet and our problems are solved. And whenever, we run out of budget, we just turn it off and everything will be fine. And that's not the case at all. The other thing that's maybe a little bit different about us is we have our clients pay for their media directly. We don't buy it and then sell it to them. So we're not marking it up. So I think that also influences how we advise them on media because I don't make a dollar. If they're buying TV or they're buying print, doesn't matter to me. I'm going to recommend what's best for them because it doesn't impact what I'm paid. I'm just paid for my time. So I think that's also something to consider if someone's trying to sell you placement. Like, are they making money off that? Because that can make a difference.
Oh my gosh, Lindsey, that was like such a huge cherry on top to this entire conversation because I explain this to business owners too. When you hire me as a consultant, I have no skin in the game. Like, I have nothing to gain by telling you you need to do 10 different marketing tactics because I'm not going to make money on those things. So, what is, there's no benefit to me doing that. I think that's the challenge with a lot of agencies and the experience that I have with guests who come on the show is like, they told me I needed to do all these things. Well, yeah, because they make money on all of those things.
Right.
So I love that you guys are set up that way. I think that is a huge
Mhm.
differentiator. I'm so glad you brought that up. Is
Yeah.
that's my guess is that's not common in the marketing agency space.
No, it's not common. And in fact, anytime we're talking with media reps, if it's the first time we're interacting with a rep or with a new media outlet, we let them know from the beginning that they will be billing our client directly. We'll help coordinate. We'll coordinate on the client's behalf, of course, but
Yeah.
they'll bill them directly, and any sort of discounts or value adds or anything needs to be passed on directly to the client. It's their benefit where we don't get paid for that.
Not that it really matters, but I'm curious, how do those companies feel about that? Are they taken aback or not
The
really? Do
media
they not really
outlet,
care?
some of them,
Yeah.
yeah, they're surprised. I mean, at the end, they love it because they get to deal with us. So they're not chasing down a client, or especially a lot of times if when they work directly with the advertiser, they may not be as familiar with what's needed or how things work. So they get to work with us. We're used to dealing with media, so it runs really smoothly. And then, yeah, any discounts, it makes them look good, honestly, to the advertiser too, because they're getting
Yeah.
the value adds and they're seeing the discounts. So
Right.
it makes them look good. It's a win-win, I think.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that that came up in this conversation because I think that is immensely helpful for business owners who might be going out exploring paid
Mhm.
ads. That's a great question for them to ask. Like, is there a
Yeah.
markup on the ads or is there a way for us to pay that directly? I think that's a
Mhm.
really good consideration when people are out there looking for agencies to work with.
I think so too. And I mean, if you are interviewing media buyers or consultants or agencies or anything like that, I think that's something, to your point, yeah, definitely ask them. And if they say no, we handle all of that, ask if they have to. If you can
Hmm.
be billed directly for media and any discounts passed along.
Yeah, that's awesome. Such a great tip. Okay, Lindsey, our time has flown by here. As we get ready to wrap up the show, I think we shared a ton of great information for listeners, but is there any last piece of advice that you want to leave people with?
I think the last thing I would say is something we talk a lot about with clients is having to fly a plane while you're working on the plane. And I think that's something that a lot of businesses and brands go through, right? Like you're always trying to improve and to do things better, but you can't just stop everything that you're doing and pause all marketing while you try to get your house in order to make those improvements. So I would just encourage people, especially, we're still early in the year. So I think that's a time when people are thinking about transitions and improvements, but look for areas where kind of as you're flying the plane, what could we be doing better? And does that mean bringing in a partner or doing our own, work on our end to look at some data from last year. Don't try to do everything at once, but I've heard someone say, it can be easy to procrastinate or get overwhelmed if you feel like you have to clean your whole house, but instead walk into a room and think, what are 5 things I can do to improve this space specifically? And just look for little improvements. And I think just this time of year, taking the time to look at your marketing and your business and do so with maybe kind of a fresh lens or fresh perspective and think about, I don't have to necessarily do a whole overhaul, but what are a couple of things that I could do right now that at the end of the year, I'll look back and be really glad I did that will make a difference for me for this year.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love the building the plane as you're flying it, because I think that it is a lot of times when I talk with business owners, they're like, oh, we just don't have the time right now to focus on our marketing. It's like, well, you're never actually going to have the time, right? Like, we're all busy business owners. It's not like magically some month you're like, oh, I have all this time now, I can do it. Right. So I absolutely love that point. Like, what can we kind of just start chipping away at over time, recognizing that we got to keep the plane flying and we can make some improvements and enhancements as we're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, Lindsey, very lastly, how can people connect with you, learn more about you and the work that you do at Gravity Group?
Yeah, so they can follow me on LinkedIn, Lindsey Laughlin on LinkedIn, or go to our website, gravitygroup.com, and you will find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsey. I really appreciate your willingness to come on the show and share all of these valuable experiences.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks. All right, everybody.